Today, I made my DBA laugh at a database issue 15 years in the making. This year has been extraordinary for me in terms of addressing long-standing issues that have troubled my company for years, and today is no different. Today, while resolving the immediate challenge at hand, I dealt with the root problem which, from what I can ascertain, has existed for at least the past 15 years. Today, I discovered that one of my SQL jobs had failed. Having encountered failures with this specific job previously, I suspected it was likely a disk space issue. This made sense, as the job that failed was the routine database backup job. I checked the disk space, and sure enough, there were 13 MB free on the 450 GB SQL database drive. I deleted numerous old backups, and now we have 250 GB free. However, while reviewing the backups, I noticed that one set of backups for a specific database named staging area was 40 GB. For each daily backup file, I examined the database itself, 110 GB. This database was already quite sizable before, but now it has become excessive. Therefore, I decided that today would be the day I would resolve the underlying cause once and for all. I attempted to shrink the database and the log files, but there was no difference. So I began running several reports to identify the issue. I decided to execute a disk usage by table report. No one particular table in this database, TBL contacts, has. Checks number rechecks number hash 1.6 billion records. So I contacted my associate at our managed service provider, who is not only our main liaison there but also a highly skilled database administrator, and I said, "Could you assist me in understanding what I am looking at here? I can't even run queries on this table because it is so exceptionally large." He looked at the email I sent him with the screenshot of the report and immediately began laughing uncontrollably. "That's a promising sign. All right. Let me clarify a bit about how this process is supposed to function. Our company operates websites that our clients use to track the current inventory of products they have at each location. Every week, they inform us of their remaining merchandise so that we can determine how much we need to send them each week to prevent shortages. This information previously resided on an external web host. To import the data from the web server into our internal system, we had a SQL Server Integration Services package that would execute every hour, downloading the data from the website into a staging area database and making minor adjustments before uploading the new information into our main database for our internal management application. An outgoing sys package also executed that performed the same function in reverse, sending updated internal information back to the web server database via the intermediary staging area database. Since we centralized everything with our managed service provider, we now have all our operations on the same SQL server, but these packages continue to run since we haven't had the time or personnel to rewrite them. I'm just one individual. Genuinely, I have been the sole IT person in the company for the past 6 years. One step inside one of these packages is where the issue lies, as the specific package that sends data from the internal database to one of the website databases is missing one crucial line from a SQL script embedded within it. The very first step in that package is to delete all the essential data tables from the staging area database, and then to copy the ones from the internal database to take their place. However, the script that deletes all the tables does not include a line to delete TBL contacts. Therefore, instead of removing that table and replacing it, the sys package merely reinserts all the data. Normally, this wouldn't present an issue, except that the staging area version of this table lacks a primary key, as staging area functions merely as an intermediary database and needs to retain the contact ID value from the original table. Unfortunately, due to the absence of a primary key in this table, it also means that you can insert the same data into the table multiple times. The TBL contacts table in the internal database has expanded from about 2,000 records originally to just over 150,000 records, which are evidently being reinserted into the staging area database each time this process runs, 6 times a day. Returning to today, my friend at the managed service provider and I eventually managed to execute a query on that table and confirmed that we are indeed receiving multiple inserts of the identical data. 11,000 times, to be precise. The primary reason no one noticed it before was that the next step in the job is to update the existing records in the web database and only insert new ones. Since the reinserted records all continued to retain the same contact ID, they did not register as new entries, and thus the job did not import them into the web database. Consequently, the web database maintains the correct number of records, and thus has not increased in size as staging area has. And that explains how you end up with the largest database table my DBA friend had ever encountered in his life, to the extent that he just burst out laughing when he discovered how many records were in it. DR database expands in size over time to ultimately occupy nearly half of the available disk space on the drive due to a missing line in a SQL script that went undetected for at least 15 years. Edit, just a brief update. I truncated the table and re-ran the job to import the data. Here were the results. The database size reduced from 110 GB to 900 MB. The job duration decreased from 1 hour and 20 minutes to 2 minutes and 47 seconds. All in a productive day's work. Story 2. My BF, M36, seems completely uninterested in who I, F37, am. Is this reason to break it off? I, female, 37, have been in a relationship with my boyfriend, male, 36, for 2.5 years. Overall, this has been a positive experience. We are quite different individuals. I am a creative person a freelancer working from home, spiritual, artistic, and I enjoy music and traveling. I don't mind spending a week in a remote cabin without water or electricity. I also have autism, diagnosed as an adult, have lived in various countries, and have formed many fulfilling and interesting relationships. My boyfriend, on the other hand, is very logical and pragmatic works a corporate 9-to-5 job, enjoys participating in half marathons, prefers to stay in upscale hotels while traveling, has no significant hobbies besides running, as he works a lot, and I am his first partner in 13 years. I know you might be wondering how these two ended up together. Right from the start, he was open about his affection for me and showed great interest in my life and my personality. Although we struggled with communication early on, over time we became quite good at expressing our feelings and being open with each other. He has been very committed from the beginning and consistently tells me he loves me. He also gives me many gifts and covers the monthly expenses for my cats. He has a deep affection for them and is very kind towards them. I believe that giving gifts and covering expenses is his primary love language. He is also imaginative with his presence. I might bring up something casually, and months later he surprises me with the item I mentioned. Such gestures always make me feel truly valued, as this level of attentiveness seems to be uncommon nowadays. For instance, I mentioned wanting an axolotl plush last summer, and he gifted me one for Christmas. He also frequently sends me postcards and love letters. We share a lot of similar values and perspectives, both politically and ethically. He has always supported my dreams and never made negative comments about them. We only see each other on weekends, and when we do, we always have an excellent time. However, I feel that things have shifted in the past few weeks. I am unsure of the cause, but I am struggling to determine if I should remain in this relationship. There were 2 incidents that left me feeling quite confused about my emotions. A few weeks ago, I decided that I wanted to pursue a master's degree. I only have my bachelor's degree so far, to improve my chances of obtaining a fulfilling remote job that I could do from home, as I find the traditional 9-to-5 setup challenging due to my neurodivergence. When I excitedly shared this news with my family and friends, everyone was very supportive. However, when I told him, he immediately expressed that he believed it was not a good idea and suggested I could easily find another job with just my bachelor's degree and accused me of not trying hard enough. When I explained that I wanted to do this for myself because life is short, he dismissed the idea as silly, effectively discouraging me completely. I was devastated and cried because this reaction felt so different from his usual support. He ignored my tears and changed the subject. Another incident occurred today. I sent him a video of a woman discussing the challenges she faces in the job market as an autistic person. I expressed in a message that I felt very understood by that video. He did not respond. When we spoke later, he stated that he simply doesn't care about some woman with ADHD on YouTube. I corrected him, saying, "It's autism, not ADHD. I am autistic. You know this, right?" He replied that he did not care and could not, nor would he ever, comprehend how I feel. I was taken aback. I questioned what had happened to his empathy. I feel so overlooked. It seems that he does not even respect me as an individual or my dreams and needs. He ended the call by saying he could not handle the emotional demands of the situation and needed to focus on work. Additionally, I am very in touch with my emotions. I have been in therapy for 8 years and have worked extensively on my traumas and coping strategies. He, on the other hand, is very much against therapy and reacts strongly whenever it is mentioned. During disagreements, I am usually the one who mediates and helps us return to a peaceful state. He often becomes quickly overwhelmed and struggles to manage any emotional situation. Sometimes he has outbursts where he covers his ears and speaks in a high-pitched voice, saying, "I can't handle this." It puzzles me because even minor inconveniences seem to unsettle him. However, he appears to function well at work. He works a lot, and many around him fear he will soon experience burnout. His best friend has also addressed this concern with him, but he refuses to listen. She has recommended therapy as well. I wondered if his recent dismissiveness could be due to potential burnout, but perhaps I am just making excuses. Maybe he simply lacks the empathy and self-reflection because he is adamantly opposed to personal growth in any form. I feel like I have lost some respect for him in recent weeks. This loss of respect stems from his unwillingness to work on himself, his lack of interest in introspection, his avoidance of discussing feelings, and his disregard for the type of neurodiversity his girlfriend experiences. This issue is extremely important to me, and he nonchalantly claims he does not care. When I recently asked him how his life would be if I weren't a part of it, he replied, "Lonely. I would be unhappy." Yet, I cannot fathom how he can simultaneously say that and remain uninterested in truly understanding who I am. I have reached a point where I don't even want to share my daily experiences with him because he seems indifferent to anything beyond superficial topics like, "What did you have for dinner?" I love him, and I love his family and friends. My family appreciates him as well. However, I just do not feel acknowledged. I seek advice on how to proceed. Story 3. I, F19, have a very different love language than my boyfriend, M30, and I am worried we aren't compatible. I suppose, after I provide some details about the situation, my question for you all will be whether there are any strategies I can employ to learn to be content with how he expresses affection, or any guidance I can gain from this situation to better understand his perspective and stop overthinking it. Some context: my boyfriend, whom I will refer to as John, and I have been together for a year. We initially met through a volunteer fire department that I joined when I was 16, and he had been there since he was 17. I quickly became very active in that fire department, taking numerous classes and dedicating much of my time there. John also spent a lot of time there. I soon became part of his group in the fire department and grew closest to him and 2 other members. John and I shared a similar sense of humor and interests, and there was a significant attraction on my part that I concealed for a while. Eventually, he began to show interest. This occurred after I turned 18, of course, and to make a long story short, we started dating. I soon realized that there was a dynamic that established me as the one pursuing him. He is quite laid back, and his ways of expressing love reflect that. Unfortunately, as an emotional and romantic woman, I began to feel somewhat dissatisfied. I yearned for him to pursue me or do sweet things to capture my attention or, I suppose, woo me. It sounds immature when I say it, but I hope someone can relate to my perspective. For instance, at the very start of our relationship, he carved a cute wooden heart for me around Valentine's Day. It didn't take him long to create, and I have treasured it ever since. I absolutely adore it. He hasn't done anything similar since. Now, regarding my concerns that have been bothering me despite my efforts to dismiss them, many of them are minor issues I have observed that have accumulated over time. He never says he misses me, and will only express his love after I say it first. He is not fond of discussing our future or anything in depth, although he does occasionally state that he wants children and that I would make a wonderful mother. He shows little affection in public, not even holding hands or resting his hand on my leg when we are seated. However, he enjoys and expects me to be touchy with him whenever we go out. If I do not show him affection for a single day, he will immediately assume something is wrong and say that the affectionate Abby is the one he fell in love with. He clearly recognizes that it is a nice feeling to have one's partner touch them in small ways, and he expects me to do that for him, but does not reciprocate. He only visits my house when I invite him, even though sometimes I wish to spend time alone with him outside the busy social environment of the firehouse. It feels as though he engages in a strange cat and mouse game where it's almost like I have to plead to see him or spend time together. Then he will finally relent and come over. He has indicated multiple times, after I raised these concerns, that being emotionally vulnerable is difficult for him. He enjoys the feeling of a woman pursuing him and playing hard to get. He reassures me that he loves me and that he simply expresses it differently. I will outline the ways he shows love to provide you all with a broader perspective that is not solely one-sided. He helped me acquire my first car when I was stuck in a challenging housing situation. He has assisted me in working on and maintaining it since he is much more mechanically skilled than I am. This creates some complications, though, as I do not believe that his help with my car absolves him from demonstrating love in other ways. I do not think I should just assume he loves me because of that. He has been extremely supportive of my college and career choices and frequently provides me with life advice when I require it. When he is at my house or we are alone in private, he can be very affectionate and cuddly. He holds me close and kisses me. He also tells me that I am beautiful fairly often. Part of me wonders, though, if that is accompanied by him being aroused because, in reality, whenever he is at my house, we usually have intimate moments. I have discussed this with him numerous times. Each time, it concludes with him saying that he loves me and wishes to find better ways to express that. He will ask for specific examples of actions he can take, and I do my best to provide suggestions. However, in reality, I have not seen any of them put into practice. I playfully mentioned Valentine's Day to him a month ago, asking if he planned to do anything. He became serious and said, "Well, why does the man always have to do things?" I had a whole plan and had begun gathering materials for the gift I was making him. After hearing that and him implying he wouldn't do anything, I scrapped my idea and decided we would skip celebrating the day. I dislike the thought of him perceiving me as materialistic or solely wanting more gifts. But I believe that thoughtfulness and care go a long way. So that's my situation. I am a very affectionate woman who believes that expressing love to your partner is incredibly important, even in small ways. Since he does not share the same perspective, it leads to complications. I am not being hypocritical and withholding love and affection. I want everything to be reciprocal. I will note that I recognize I am younger than he is and that we may have differing viewpoints. Additionally, I endured a difficult childhood due to my parents and no longer have a relationship with either of them. My biggest fear is that I might be overanalyzing everything due to immaturity and past trauma. I need someone to tell me whether I am truly unreasonable and need to sort out my feelings, or if some of my concerns are valid. If they are valid, what are constructive ways I can address them and potentially persuade him to compromise with me? I do not wish to break up. I genuinely care for him. I appreciate anyone who took the time to read this. Summary: my boyfriend is not physically affectionate and still expects me to express affection. I feel like he fails to provide the essential treatment I need. Story 4. I 22F just found out my estranged older sister's 24F boyfriend, 23M of 8 months, is my ex of 6.5 years, and I was unfaithful to both. How can we come back from this? I was considering sharing this because I knew I would be met with criticism. But honestly, I brought all of this upon myself. I acknowledge it. And no, I am not pretending to be the victim because I am not. To summarize, I relocated to New York from Los Angeles due to the wildfires. Los Angeles was my dream home, but I had to accept that it simply wasn't the safest place. Nowhere truly is, but these recurrent wildfires have endangered my life and my home for such a long time that it finally made a significant impact. Anyway, I confided in my estranged sister, Malia, about the situation. She is 2 years older than me, and she was thrilled for my move to New York. She resides in Manhattan, Harlem, while I will live in Midtown. The night I arrived in New York, a mutual friend of ours, Adriana, encouraged me to loosen up at a party she was hosting before I officially transferred to school there. I conceded and went, and there I ran into Vincent, my ex-boyfriend of 6.5 years. We broke up because I felt I was relying too much on him. I couldn't drive, was stuck in a terrible job at McDonald's, which he helped me escape, allowing me to pursue a career in fashion merchandising. I was somewhat shy. I struggled to show affection because I didn't believe I had earned it from him. Though I lacked confidence before, he continued to love me. I knew that ending our relationship broke his heart, but I didn't expect him to still have feelings for me, as he confessed at the party. He said he missed me, and we both recalled our past memories, our intimacy, and even a time we discussed getting engaged, which I still was not ready for. I need to find myself and solidify my career before I even contemplate marriage, whether it is with him or not. I must get my life in order first. I left abruptly without saying goodbye to my friend Adriana because I was overwhelmed by our shared moments. And honestly, although I needed to improve my ability to be affectionate, I yearned for a relationship. I wasn't sure if it was, because all of my friends, including my sister's mutual friend Adriana, were in relationships, or if I genuinely desired to love and commit. But I knew I needed to get my life together. With my major in fashion and having secured an internship in New York, along with the goal of obtaining my own place, I felt I was halfway there. I cried myself to sleep that night, and the next morning I headed to school. My sister had a dorm on campus, so around the time when all the students were in between classes and working on projects, she and her friends surprised me. They were welcoming, a bit ostentatious but very friendly. Before I could even discuss my major, Vincent entered the circle, and my sister squealed in excitement and kissed him. My jaw dropped. She introduced him as her boyfriend, and I simply could not find the words. As Malia greeted him with a kiss, he locked eyes with me, equally surprised, but he did not appear too fazed by the revelation. She introduced both of us, and I struggled to mask my feelings. Hesitantly and stuttering, I told Malia that we had met, and she was astonished, asking how. I almost revealed the truth, but then Vincent intervened, saying he had reached out to me from California regarding the wildfires and the donations being organized in my area, explaining that we had a brief conversation on Twitter. Malia comforted me about the wildfires, hugging me, and once again, Vincent maintained his gaze on me throughout. I excused myself, claiming that I had a class in 10 minutes and did not want to be late. Later that evening, as students were heading to their dorms, I hung back in a spot where I couldn't be seen, sketching in my notebook behind the dorm buildings and wrestling with the idea of telling Malia the truth. Vincent emerged from inside. Ironically, both of us are residing off campus, and he asked if he could hang out for a bit, to which I politely declined, but he chose to stay with me. He came closer, asking me to look at him, and inquired what I was contemplating regarding potentially revealing the truth to Malia. I asked him why I shouldn't, and he replied that she should not know due to her temperament. He revealed they had been dating for only 8 months, although one of her friends had mentioned it during our introduction. But Vincent further shared that their relationship had been tumultuous due to Malia's behavior. We delved deeply into conversation, and he disclosed that the day he mentioned engagement was when he purchased a ring, even showing me a picture or video of him shopping for it. I questioned if it might be fake and how I could trust it wasn't intended for my sister, to which he replied, "Because she's not you, Heidi." He leaned in for a kiss, but I resisted. He held the side of my face, whispering, "Just once," and I relented and kissed him. We embraced, and after stopping kissing, we remained locked in each other's gaze, continuing to hold one another. I was aware it was wrong since he was with my sister, but at that moment, it felt right. I only felt guilty because I knew I would have to tell her about our kiss. How do I even begin to explain my actions to her? I am guilty and only feel regret due to the potential fallout. I will not expose him as if I am an innocent party because I am not.